Welcome to Riley Reacts, the series where I react to things about the next step or next step things. Normally, if you have been watching this channel or following this channel for a while, or at least the last month or so, I would react to season 8. Going to continue that. I'm not stopping the reaction to season 8, but just to change things up, I thought it would be nice to be able to do a reaction video to an old dance routine. Specifically because yesterday Brennan posted a video on his channel of us doing the dance dates.
How are you feeling about the routine?
And I'm like getting weird flashbacks to doing talking heads.
I know.
And I'm so tired, but I'm like, hey, let's get them going. For that video, we ended up filming this footage of us reacting to us watching this Nationals duet for the first time, and it was really interesting and funny, I thought. And so I was like, oh, I could make a video out of this myself, because Brennan didn't end up using the footage. So many of you guys have asked me about reacting to season 1, because I started reacting to season 1 and then stopped. And this video is my opportunity to kind of like bring back some little clips from past seasons, like little moments. But I don't know when I'll be able to go back and revisit the first season again and rewatch an episode again to pick up where I left off, whatever. For now, I'm just sticking with season 8. Every so often we'll be getting little videos like this, like little sidetrack videos, little clips of like, this was season 2 Nationals duet, this was that one other dance that maybe you guys want me to react to. If you guys have been following both Brennan and I for a while, you know about Australianaires, this series that we made.
They got into a really bad car accident.
I don't even really remember.
No, I like totally blacked out.
Me too.
Next thing I remember, we were rich.
I know, but like our parents died first.
Yeah. Time for a dramatic reenactment.
Is it rolling?
Yeah, it's rolling.
Hey kids, how was your trip to Australia? Oh, not very talkative, are you?
Oh no, watch out!
Oh no!
Tragic.
That was so much fun to make and just like hilarious and a good time. If you haven't seen it, I'll link it down below. But we posted it on our shared YouTube channel called Knuckles on 4 Productions. And we have another project that we're wanting to put out on that YouTube channel. And it's going to be our podcast, which we're calling Right Around the Corner, for obvious reasons. We're talking about all things The Next Step, our entire experience with that show. We're diving deep into questions that you guys have asked that we have avoided answering. Our experience booking the show, as well as like becoming kind of semi-famous from that show, as well as the aftermath of it all. We're going to talk about the behind the scenes stuff. We're going to talk about the touring that, well, really I got to do. Brennan got to do some touring. And so on that show, in the first episode, we're filming it this week, and we want to get questions from you guys so that we can answer them. So as many questions as you can, ask down below. Whatever question you could think of, we want them all. Speaking of questions, I'm also going to answer another question at the end of this video, so stick around for that. Yeah. Okay, I have a fun fact about this costume. Do you want to do fun facts, or are we just watching?
Give me a fun fact.
So that costume was like just like a white thick thing.
It was thick, right? Like
Because-
canvas-y.
Because they had to, and then we had to stand in the final position of this routine, like this, like in the pose that I'm in there, and they had to cut out or like pencil out the markings of like where the patches were.
On the backdrop.
Yeah, and then on the back of us, there was a point where I'm also, I think, facing it, maybe I'm making this up. Well, we're about to find out. And they did it there too, and they did like paint it, so then it's like this like thick, heavy. So anyways,
Crusty, dusty.
and this is also kind of reminding me of just like filming dances in general for like all the competitions. Not so much regionals, but nationals and internationals were, we had fans in the audience, because now all of a sudden the show is well known, and so they brought fans to be like part of the audience members, which was a cool thing. But what would complicate things was when we would need to film like the results of a competition, who won the competition or who would make it to the next round or whatever. We would have to film it 3 different ways. Okay, we're gonna film it as if the next step wins. We'd film it, then we have to film it like as if the next step loses, or we have to film it like it's a tie, so that the audience wouldn't know what the results really were, so that we didn't spoil anything for them, so they'd still watch and like no one would find out what actually happened. There would be business that would happen after a win or after a loss that was written in the script that we'd have to do on stage, and they would have to film us doing it. And so to get around that, we would usually just film like the wide shot with the audience of like, yay, we won, or oh, we lost, or whatever, or it's a tie, or whatever it was. And then when you needed to do the extra business that happens directly after that, they would come in tight for that, and then the audience would leave before we'd actually film that. Oh yeah, okay, the storyline was that he's a businessman. So Amy Wright, the choreographer of this show, one of the things that she always implemented in these dances, she always wanted there to be some sort of story involved, particularly when there's a duet or like two people. Like sometimes with a group dance, she would do that too. And so the story with this dance is that pretty obviously James is like this business guy who's like stressed out about work, and the phone conversations he has are very aggressive and he does not like them. And Riley, she's part of this beautiful painting that is on display in this art gallery that this guy is having his business phone call on. And so she sees that he's stressed, and she like comes to life and then brings him back to life by slowly taking away the things that he's attached to. His business papers. You don't need those, she says. You don't need your briefcase. You don't even need your suit. Come dance with me in this beautiful art gallery, and then let's live in the painting forever. That was sort of like the kind of story behind it, was like this art character bringing this stressed out businessman back to life. The theme about the next step is that the story is always far more important than anything else. That is an important component in a lot of dance routines for competitions, but I would argue what's more important in the competitive dance world is like technique, because technique is what you're mostly scored on. Yes, your performance quality and how well you are able to tell the story of the routine, as well as quality of your movement, the style that you're bringing to it, the kind of artistry behind the movement. But the technique is kind of like the highlighted undercurrent, specifically with like younger dancers, because that's the best way that judges can critique you. And that's something that the next step doesn't really talk about as much. I find that they get further and further away from that. It's much more just about like the performance and like the showmanship of it all. And part of that showmanship was like the props. Oh, and then the papers. Yeah. I remember we had to do that 50 times, and they had to clean it up every time. Oh yeah, and the quick change. Fun fact about the quick change. We would need to film these dances just in general like 10 to 15 times, because you're getting multiple different angles. You're having like the moving angle, then you're having the closer up angle. Sometimes they would have a cameraman follow us on stage as we're dancing, and then they would have it once with the A-troopers in the side stage wing, and then they would do it once without them. Like, so all of those times like add up to a different time you have to perform the dance. Now add on top of that the element of the confetti being thrown, as well as the costume change that had to happen. So what we did is we filmed the first half of the routine 1,000,000 times until they knew they had everything, and then we filmed the throw. We filmed just that 1,000,000 times. And then after Trevor was changed into his painting costume, we filmed the second half of the routine with the confetti on the stage. And we filmed that a bunch of times so that we could get that right. And that was kind of, I remember how we had to film it.
Which is the duet that you like rip his clothes off? Is that the flying one? He
I
has
don't
like an
think I
outfit
ever rip his
underneath, and she like pulls off.
I was gonna be like,
And it reveals.
what?
I don't
What's
ever
the duet
rip
when
his,
you're naked?
I don't ever rip his clothes off.
No? Maybe
No.
I'm thinking of this one. Maybe I just assumed that it was like a tearaway
Someone
suit.
let us know. So this particular dance was terrifying for me, because the real studio that I competed at, called Joanne Chapman School of Dance, some of the dancers at that studio were involved with this particular competition. They would be like they would be representing the other studios that the next step was competing against. So my dance studio director, my real life studio director, was in the audience watching this particular dance. And it scared the bejesus out of me, because I was doing pointe, and my technique was not strong because I hadn't been doing pointe like training in pointe for a while. So like my pointe's not very good in this. I could just hear her voice in my head being like, Britt, you know, you might want to consider going back to some ballet classes. which is definitely something she would say. She's right. I needed the ballet classes. God, why did Amy make me
I was
go
literally
on
just gonna
point?
say, why do they always make you go on point?
I wasn't even that good at it.
Well, and also, like, first season it was like Jenny was the ballet girl.
Yeah.
And that was like such a plot point.
I know. They stopped using ballet in the show after this. Oh yeah, and we were always had to be in the wings in our
Yeah.
matching outfits. Oh yeah, I close it with my point
That's
shoe.
really cute.
And then here we go, final pose and da. And yeah, we had to get it exactly right, which is like, how did we? Which Trevor's not.
He wasn't.
He's not. And of course, the audience loves it every single time. This was the one question that I wanted to answer. Someone asked, if TNS asked you to come back for an episode, would you? Because I want to know what Riley's up to. I totally would. I definitely would do that. I'm also curious as to what she's up to. But the one thing that I don't know is like how she would be brought back into the story. The only way I can see that happening is if she was brought back as like a business tycoon woman who like runs all these businesses or something. Or better option is she's just graduated her business school. She has this degree. She has all this fancy knowledge from school, but no real world experience other than the last time she was studio head. And so she comes to try and like help Miles and ends up thinking she knows more than him, but actually ends up learning a lot from him. Is like would be like a fun storyline. I also had this fantasy that like when I'm in my 40s or 50s, one of my children, one of Riley's children is like going to the Next Step studio, and so that's how she cameos. She like comes back, so stay tuned for that. Maybe it'll happen if the show's still around. Thank you for your question. Georgia Miles 2274. Thank you for your question. Again, anyone else, ask a bunch of questions if you can, because yeah, we're gonna answer them in that future podcast episode. Thanks for watching. That's all. And I'll see you next week. We'll be back with another reaction to episode 8 then. So that's
Okay, so I think we should do the section where it's like a couple of lifts into the goom goom da goom 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 da, that bit.
I already know it.
You know it?
I just remember that one part.
Da-da,
Next
guitar.
up, choreography is very easy
Yeah.
for professional dancers.
Yeah. And I feel like it was always really hard for me, like whenever we did group choreo, because it was always
very like hip-hoppy.
very like hip hoppy, and I
Okay,
was like
yeah.
at Juilliard, like,
So you're like,
how do I? Yeah, so this will be fun.
Okay, bye.